Hello everybody and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43 and tonight we have our very first look at the Izmail, the Tier 5 Russian battleship. And without further ado, let's get to the commander. Now just like yesterday, we have Mikhail Kidrov, and of course we have him to Tier 11 or rank 11. We have not one for the nuisance, we have Crisscross, we have Collective Labor, Master Mechanic, Will to Rebuild, and then Andrew Cunningham, Robert Jajard. Now, getting to the ship itself, if we look at this, we have Aiming Systems Mod 1 and Damage Control Mod 2. 55,900 hit points, up to 300 millimeters of armor, 23% torpedo reduction, 356 millimeter main batteries, you got 12 of them, 15.8 kilometer firing range, 33-second reload time with our current build, and plenty of secondaries for what it is. We have several, which is 10 130 millimeter casemate guns on the side of the ship. And the secondaries are pretty good on these Russian ships. They're accurate, and they do pack a wallop when they hit cruisers and destroyers. Maneuverability, 28.5 knot maximum speed, which is pretty good. 830 meter turning radius. Better than the Iowa, but not by much. It's not bad. Rudder shift time of 12 seconds, pretty good for a battleship. Detectability, your battleship 14.5 kilometers, 11.5 by air, 2 guaranteed, and 11.5 firing penalty, which is actually better than most battleships in the smoke. So if you get a chance to utilize a smoke screen for once, you might actually be able to take advantage of it in a battleship. Moving on, we have superior AP penetration, which seems to be a thing for the Russian battleships. So they have better standard penetration, but not necessarily as good a penetration at angles that I've noticed. Guns aplenty, high number of guns. Of course, you've got 12 of them, which is right up there with all but the Leon. Of course, the Leon is Tier 6, right? Yeah, I think it's Tier 6. Sluggish aim, below average main battery traverse speed, close quarters combat problematic. That's exactly what we've talked about. The turrets turn very slow on these Russian battleships. Now, a battle cruiser, which at the time of her laying down claimed to be the world's most powerful warship. She was very similar to Battleship Ganget in terms of her layout and armor type, but differed in her larger size, speed, and 356 millimeter main battery guns. So yeah, Izmail, not quite as tanky, but still pretty tanky, but the speed and the guns are pretty good. I like the guns quite a bit. So without further ado, let's get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so this might be slightly controversial, but I decided to take the Izmail straight into ranked battles to see what I can do. Now, don't get me wrong, I have played this in regular battles as well, and it has pretty much been the exact same story for me. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. Now, first thing you're going to notice is there's no destroyers, which is preferable. Anytime you're in a battleship, especially one, that you plan on shoving down people's throats, you're probably not going to want to see any destroyers, because when you do, it's bad. But we're going to go straight over to A first, and first strategy for ranked battles for me is to always try to take the first cap that's closest to you, mainly due to the fact that if you lose the match, XP comes into play. Guess what gives you XP? Capturing bases. Dealing damage does too, but capturing bases helps. So, getting into the base and getting some points for capturing the base is helpful if you end up losing the match. That being said, we're going to get out here. You'll notice that we've got three... Okay, try again, Spartan. You can do it. I have faith in you. 4 turrets with 3 guns each, and they are 356 millimeters, I believe. That means that you struggle a little bit, but not too much. What I've had the most issues with in these Russian battleships so far other than the turrets being slow. It's just that it seems like I always end up getting myself caught being broadside. Now, this is, something that I try to avoid most of the time. I try to make sure that I bow tank shells and then turn out to get my guns on it. But as you're going to see a little bit later, there are times that you're going to get caught. It just happens. You're going to put yourself in a position to get good damage, and there we get our first base capture, barely getting inside the capture, or inside the base before it got captured. We've got our broadside Baron. He's currently not quite broadside, he's angled slightly. He gets a good shot against us, couple hits, and then we repay it with 1 overpin and basically no damage, 1,050 damage. You're going to see me prioritize targets here early on in this match. Now, I've said it a million times. Battleships are devastating, right? But they are the easiest thing to counter damage that you have in the game. Destroyers, number 1, and cruisers, surprisingly, are number 2. We get a much better shot at the Bayern here, but then we start spotting cruisers. And cruisers in open water need to be taken out immediately. Pensacola's, what do you call it? What do you call it? It's not the York, it's the one below the York, the Nuremberg, and the Galicianeer that's over here on the enemy team need to be taken out as quickly as possible. Now you can see Pensacola's taking evasive action here. He's turning away. We're still going to try to hit him because, it's the easiest darn thing to Citadel in the world, and we only get 1 hit. Now, this game's going to kind of show why it might not be the best idea to not have a dispersion build. But it's also going to showcase why it's a good idea to have a tank build. And you'll see that as we get into the match. Now, clearly this Nuremberg is not paying attention to us, which is fine with me because as he slows down to try to capture that base, I'm going to take a shot. And unfortunately, he gets lucky. He gets real lucky. Notice where the enemy battleships are currently to us. We are bow tanking them. We've got an island between us. So I'm not worried about the battleships. My sole focus is to try to get rid of these cruisers. Why do I keep calling them destroyers? These cruisers as quickly as possible. Now, I am giving a broadside to a Pensacola and a Nuremberg, which is very dangerous, especially for the Pensacola, because it is fully capable of citadeling this ship. Pensacola is a nasty cruiser. Those 203s are no joke. Unfortunately, we don't manage to get a good hit. He's outside our effective firing range. And luckily, the Arizona comes in and just absolutely waylays him, taking down the second cruiser. That leaves just the Nuremberg to take the center cap. And he's not actually in the cap. So now that he's getting ready to sail back towards the cap, we're going to go ahead and try to punch him in the mouth. Shots out. Come on, those look much better. Got him. We got one of the citadels, plus pretty much all of those hit. We had 8 overpins in that one. So, pretty disgusting. Now, moving on, we have to worry about all of these nice battleships sailing broadside on in front of us. Now, here's where my match in particular is about to get pretty entertaining. Because I don't have a choice. I need to bow tank these guys. As much as I would love to try to start working these guys, I cannot. I have to start thinking carefully about what I'm about to do to these guys. Now you can see I'm starting to try to rotate my guns to the left side of my ship. There is a Bayern that is ahead of everybody who is starting to get a very favorable angle for him against me, which is not preferable. So I'm going to start backing away. Now we get set on fire twice there, so we have to use one of our 4 damage cons. And just as we back around, we're going to start trying to keep a better angle with that Bayern. This is maintaining a best possible angle against everybody that I can. I can't angle perfectly against all of them, but I can angle as best as I can against most of them, and then, deal with the repercussions. And this is where the Russian ships in particular, Russian battleships, kind of come into their own. Other than the fact that you're going to see the squishy bow that we run into later in this match. And you can see there we just took a citadel, unfortunately. But you can see I'm trying to get a little bit more angle towards the guys that can actually shoot me. And this is allowing me to stay alive. Even though I've downed about half my health right now. I still have 2 heals left. I've got 2 damage cons. So we're doing okay, considering the amount of firepower that was just in front of us focused on us. The fact that we survived this long is a testament to just how tanky these battleships can be. And you could have I'm sure you guys heard a lot of the shatters and bounces and stuff off the side of the ship. Now we've got a New Mexico broadside on, and there's that vertical dispersion I was talking about, where the rounds are just like, hey, I know you're shooting at the broadside of a battleship at 6 kilometers, but we don't want you to hit him. We're just going to splash the water next to him. Maybe it'll scare him away. Unfortunately, he doesn't have the same problem. Luckily, my teammate decides to run out there and take it for me, which is fine with me. Now, I'm assuming that the enemy team is going to come barreling around the corner, and that's not exactly what happens here. My teammate, who has graciously just sailed straight into all of the mess that I was in, except he's much more compromised due to the fact that he's broadside on in front of everybody, has thrown away all of his hit points in a pretty quick fashion. But we've got a Bayern here sailing broadside. We're going to go ahead and try to punish him with the full broadside capability. Unfortunately, we don't Citadel him, but we do get a lot of damage there with over 11,000 damage done. So our teammate in the Bayern decided to go broadside. He's now dead. We still have 26,000 health, which means we're doing okay. We got about a minute before we can recover any more health, so we've got to be careful. We've got 2 damage controls left, and here I'm assuming that this Bayern's done. There's no way he survives this next salvo, right? Right? Wait for it. Okay, we got it. We got him. It's okay. Now, our team loses another ship to their Bayern, and that leaves me with 2 cruisers and a battleship versus 2 battleships. Both of these battleships are hurting. But notice the location of my friendly battleship versus where I'm at. Now, I have more health than this Bayern, and I get a little too overconfident here. While the New Mexico shooting at me is mostly inadequate, he does manage to Citadel me probably twice right there, it looked like, or close to it. Maybe 1 Citadel and a bunch of penetrations. But it was a significant amount of damage that he just dealt through the nose of my ship. It's unfortunate, but we do manage to repay the favor, and now we should be able to use our our repair party to return a little bit of our health. And now this guy should be done. There's no way that this guy should win this fight. However, his buddy's going to be launching shells over the top of the island, and now I'm presenting a broadside to him, and I, of course, get penetrated and lose my health there. I'm still at 5,000 health. He shoots straight through the bow of my ship and kills me. Really. So, that is what I mean by these ships are not as tanky as you'd expect them, but they are still incredibly tanky. Now, we have 2 cruisers that are low health. They are both falling back. You can't really blame them. Aoba being a little too brave for my comfort here. But they've knocked out the Bayern, which leaves just the New Mexico back there. The New Mexico doesn't have any health. So all these guys have to do is nothing. We've already got the points to win. We've got more than 1 cap, so we've got the win in the bag. Unless these guys throw this match. Now this New Mexico, who is full health, and I can only consider like the fact that he's been sitting in the back doing nothing the entire game. That's my assumption. It's probably incorrect. He's probably been shooting, but he doesn't even have his guns on the right side of the ship, so I'm not holding out much hope. But the fact that he's got 48,600 hit points versus a New Mexico that probably only has 10,000 hit points, that's just a guess, probably less than that, but just a guess, means that there should be no way that he loses this engagement. There should be no way that he loses this engagement. But watch what he does the moment he spots this guy come around the corner. Now, he fires his front guns, that's fine. He leads the guy too much, gets a decent hit, but not good enough. And now he's giving up way too much. Okay, he's fine. The guy missed. Now, here he gets a little overconfident, starts turning, and watch the amount of damage that's inflicted here. Yeah, he just went from 47,000 damage to 34, doing 13,000 damage in one salvo. But again, it's not that big a deal because he should not lose this fight. And there was a much better place shot, that time managing to take most of the remaining health of the New Mexico, and his front gun should be loaded. There they go, and down goes the enemy New Mexico. So we get pretty lucky there on the New Mexico not completely potatoing the end, even though he seemed to be trying. We've got 98,000 damage, third on the leaderboard there. Not too bad, considering how much damage we were tanking. This is where I would love to see the stats for the amount of damage, potential damage received and all of that. But anyway, personally, I like these Russian battleships. They're tanky. They're not amazingly tanky. They're not overpowered tanky, but they are a lot of fun to play when you get into those sticky situations. So if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.